Hello, my name is Victoria and I am going to be your guide through the city of Avila. But first of all, we have to know some features of the history of the Iberian Peninsula. The first thing to do is to locate Avila on the map of Spain. This is our region, or autonomous region of Castilla and Leon, as it is nowadays called. This is a political division performed in the 19th century, based partly on geography and partly on history. But where is Avila? To the south, bordering Extremadura, Castilla-La Mancha and Madrid. On a political map, this tells us nothing, but what happens if we see it from a physical point of view? If we remove the political shape of the region and the province, we clearly see that we are in the hollow formed by two mountain ranges, the Cantabrian one, which separates us from the sea to the north, and the central system that does it from the rest of the country to the south and to the east. The only way to enter is from the west, from Portugal, taking advantage of the Duero and the Tajo valleys, or through the small gap that goes on between these two mountain ranges. This isolation is often to be detrimental, making that any technical or artistic innovation reaches us later. But other times we are going to avoid or delay invasions that never were welcome here. Contrary to what it has been written until recently, that's to say, a land that has been uninhabited due to its extremely harsh climate, we today know that neither the weather was so harsh nor the mountains were so empty. Always, and I am talking about thousands of years ago, it has been populated. Please think about Atapuerca. But in addition, there are some evidences of population movements from Central Europe around the first millennium before Christ. These tribes or families will be mixed with the initial population and will lead to the beginning of an unstructured society. Population that 2 or 3 centuries later will receive a mix again with other people who, for unknown reasons, move up here from Central Europe too. They have many different origins and they are going to move according to their clans or tribes. Every Spanish region comes from one of these tribes. The tribes that settle down our lands, entering through the lower side of the Pyrenees and using the valleys of the river, are those we call Betones. At the same time these people come from the north and mix with those already staying here, from the sea to the south and to the east, come Tartessos, Phoenicians and Greeks. They will create cities along the coast, but they will not cross the separation marked by the mountains. Thus, it will appear a clear difference between the Celtic and the Mediterranean world. But every civilization comes to an end, and in that of the Hellenistic world has much to say the power that has begun to be prominent at the time, Rome. But to be the greatest, the empire, Rome must overcome several obstacles. One of them, I would dare to say the main one, is Carthage. Which were Rome's plans? To take the war away their territory. Which were Carthage's? On the contrary, to take the Romans by surprise on their back, crossing the Pyrenees and the Alps, and thus they had to invade and pass through Spain with their famous elephants. But to do it through areas that were controlled by Rome would be an unnecessary waste. They do it through badly populated lands with a high resistance against Rome, lands that have been threatened but not colonized yet. Without great enemies and with their resources depleted by the war, Rome needs gold and grain, oil and wine, and they are going to begin by converting the Greek and Carthaginian cities and to go on their advance towards the goal they think they would find on Finisterre lands. They conquer, subject, but gradually they have to somehow share its culture. That's what we call Romanization. But Rome is near to the end. An enemy is coming from the even further east. An enemy personated by a great warrior, Attila. Partly because they seem less bad than those others coming from further away. Partly because they could not do otherwise. Rome will allow some people coming from the north to enter its borders. They call them barbarians. They enter and settle down. It's true that some of them were more violent and that they were not able to organize. These disappeared in infighting. But others, the Visigoths, with a more developed culture, succeeded in establishing, in recovering the lost authority concept, and even in adapting the social reality to the famous until then unique Roman law. Rome disappears. Cities change their leaders, and Visigoths also began to succumb to the pull that, for this time, came from the south. The Moorish quickly conquered the peninsula due to, first, the lower classes' displeasure about their elitist leaders. Second, the aid that some of these knights provide them. Third, and very especially the roads network that Rome has constructed. But they don't pass the last mountain barrier formed by the Cantabrian Mountains and the Pyrenees. They only needed 11 years to conquer the peninsula. However, it took almost 800 years to recover the lost territory. 800 years is a long time, long enough to merge cultures, languages, lands, and people. But when this war is finished, a new and different social stratum has appeared, that one of the warriors, whether noble or common soldiers, which do not know any other job. For centuries, their families have been dedicated to and live from the war. But now there is nothing to reconquer. They have to look for new horizons, and thus these unemployed soldiers will lead to new lands to be conquered. In the African continent, the Mediterranean coast, and further, it may be by a mistake, to the Indies. This expansion will result in what has come to be called the Spanish Empire, but, as is usual in our story, this empire crumbles and disappears.